Hello everybody, welcome to CIS 407A. We're going to be learning how to use C# and ASP.NET to build web applications. And I want to do a quick demonstration for you. If I do videos, I'll probably be doing them in Visual Studio 2013, very similar to what you have in 2012. You can use either one of those versions. 2014 is also out. This is the Ultimate Edition of Visual Studio 2013. But for the purposes of the class, it should be very similar to what you're doing. So, as you know, web applications, we use them all the time. You use them for the online classroom. To create a new web application in Visual Studio, this is what I'd like for you to do, and please follow these directions exactly. You want to select New Website. And then under C#, you'll know you have VB or Visual Basic and C#. Make sure you pick C#, and then make sure you pick ASP.NET Empty Website. This is very important. If you select the ASP.NET Forms site or these others, it's going to put a lot of files in here that are going to be confusing to you over time. So just start out with the empty website. Now it's going to store it on the file system at this location, and you'll be zipping this folder and turning it in. That's what you'll be doing. So I'm going to just go ahead and create it here just to talk about this a little bit. It's going to create one file, the web config file, which is a file that's used by the web server when it runs your application. So it'll take a few seconds here to get this started. Over here on the right, you'll see the File Explorer. You'll see a solution, the website, and the web config file. We'll be making changes to the web config file in later weeks in the course. This is what it looks like. It's an XML file. For now, just don't change it. If you'll click on the website node, whatever that was named, you can name it different things. You can right-click with the mouse and select Add, and then Add New Item. And you'll want to pick a web form. And down here at the bottom, you'll notice you can name it. Make sure this is checked to say place code in a separate file. Also make sure you've selected C# there. So we'll add that. And you may wonder what the difference is between a ASP.NET web page and a regular web page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and also add a regular HTML page here. Right here at the top is an HTML page. So I'm going to add that. Okay, so you'll notice a few differences here. With the HTML page, it looks like this. It just has some markup in it. And we could type hello world if we wanted to. And we could right-click on this and we could select View in Browser, and it'll bring the browser up. And let us look at this page. It'll render the page. Visual Studio has a built-in web server, so you don't have to worry about getting this uploaded to any file, to any web server. You can do everything locally. Now let's look at our default. It looks very similar. In fact, it looks almost identical down here, but there's these little yellow angle bracket % things. This is code that gets interpreted by the ASP.NET application server. So basically this page is going to get run on the server before it sends this markup back down. So we could again do hello world from ASP.NET, for example, and we could right click and select View in Browser, and it will do the same type of thing. It's going to render the web page for us. Okay. It'll take a second for it to start the web server up, and there you go. Now, the difference between these two pages then is that this page is just returned as is. There's no processing that happens by an application server, and the application server again is built into Visual Studio, so you don't have to do any installation on that. Where this page, it actually will process anything that's on the page. Now, you'll also notice that this page consists of two different pages. There's actually a C# page and a markup page. So the C# page can get executed based on the events that happen. So one event is when the page loads. So we can say, well, when this page loads, we want to do something. Now we're in C# at this point, so we will have to write our code like this, and we're going to do a too long date string. So this gets the current time as let's see, wait, that's a string. Let's do this. Let's do it this way. We'll write a little bit more C# code for you. So let's just do this. And that wants, and then we're going to do a string. And then we're going to say that is equal to too long date string, for example. Something like that. Okay. Now, we have gotten the current date, we've got the current time. Now, how do we output it? Well, to output on the form, we need to actually have a control. And so what we're going to do is go into the design view here, and we're going to drag and drop a control. I'm going to grab the standard ASP.NET label control and drop that on the form, like that. You'll notice it has an ID of label 1. So now in my code, I can refer to it as label 1. It knows about that. Now I can't assign a string directly to a label because a label is a control, but I can assign it directly to the text property of the control, like this. Okay. Now if I run this page, view it in the browser, what you'll notice it does is it goes and gets the current date and displays that. Now if I wanted to also show the current time, I could do that by something like this. Let's do too long time string. And we can concatenate strings together by just using the plus operator. And that's just going to add a space, and then we'll put str time at the end of that. Okay? And let's run it again. So now you'll notice the time. Now, the reason I did this is I want to show you what happens when I reload. If I reload the page, if it were a static web page, you just get the same content over and over again. But because it's running C# code to get the current time from the server, you'll notice that updates as we go. Okay? So some important things we've learned. First, we've learned that ASP.NET pages are processed on the server before they are sent back down to the browser. Second, that you have a built-in web server and application server in Visual Studio. You don't have to do any installation. Third, we've learned a little bit about C# and how to interact with it. Now this happens as a result of the page being loaded. We could create our own events. For example, we could have a button on here that said get current date and time, for example. And we could double click on that button and take all of this code that we have and move it down there. So instead of this happening when the page loads, we can have it happen only when the button is clicked. So let's run this and see how that works. And there you'll see how it worked for you. Okay? Now, as I told you, to turn in your web application, what you will do is you will go to the folder where this is. Now, where is that? There's a couple of ways you can do that. One is you can select Open Folder in File Explorer. So what we want to do is we want to zip this folder right here, the folder containing your pages. Now you'll have your own zip program, so I'm not going to go through the details of how that works, but this is all you would do is zip that and then turn it in. Now when you close this, when we do close solution, if we wanted to reopen it, we just select open website, and we would go to the same place that we were at and open that folder, and everything would be there. Now very quickly I want to show you also how to do this as a project instead of as a website. It's really the same type of thing, but we want to go to Visual C#, and we're going to do a blank app. And again, there's going to be a location for this. It takes it a few minutes to build the files and create the directories. Actually, that's not what we wanted. Added a little bit more than what we wanted to do, so let's go back here. Here we go. ASP.NET Web Application is what we want. Let's do that instead. And we want to select empty for the template type. Now you'll notice that once the file gets created, it's very similar. It just created a couple of additional folders, but the process that you go through to add pages is exactly the same. You do add new item, and select your web form, and add it. And this is the same web form that we just had. So for example, in the page load, we could add our same code that we had there before. We need to add a control, however, because we don't have that control. So we'll drop that on here. And now we can view this in the browser just the same way. Now the advantage of this is you can open and close it as a project. So either way works. You may feel a little bit more comfortable doing it as a project rather than doing it as a website. So I've demonstrated both of those. Again, you would zip the folder containing the project files and turn that in. Okay, so hopefully this has been a really, it's a really brief introduction to ASP.NET, but hopefully it's useful for you as you get started. Please make sure that you check out the iConnect sessions, the recorded sessions from previous classes, videos like this that I'll be doing to help out with specific concepts as we go. Thanks.